Hello, everyone, and welcome into today's edition to the Point Podcast. Everybody's doing well. What a night in the sports world last night. Lots of headlines, lots to get into. Wasn't such a great night for gambling. Thanks, New York Rangers, with our first feast or famine was a 0. But with the feast or famine section, it's going to be a pick of the day. I think that's a way to go as well. So we're gonna keep going with this gambling every day. We're gonna make some picks. I hope they hit. Last night, the Rangers and Igor Shesterkin decided not to cooperate because otherwise, last night if you bet on the Celtics +1, who won by 10, if you bet on the Panthers, who won in overtime, you would have made some money. But of course, the New York Rangers and the goalie who's most likely going to win the Vezina Trophy is yet another star who is not having a great postseason. But we'll make new picks today. We'll see how that goes. If you got any betting lines that you like, you want to share, and before I make my picks or pick of the day, love to hear it because I'll take all the help I can get. I like certain games tonight, but I will take whatever you got to give to me. It was an interesting night last night. I didn't bet baseball, but the Cubs were big underdogs. The Cubs destroyed the Padres. The Pirates beat Julio Urias and the Dodgers. It was an interesting night, a huge comeback in Cleveland where the Guardians, still not used to that garbage name, but the Guardians, what a comeback. Josh Naylor, the Canadian, just a hero last night. So lots to dive into, lots to break down today. But let's start with the NHL. Shamus Fillmore is going to join later in the show. We're going to get into a bunch of different things. We're going to talk some NBA. His Celtics tied at 2-2 last night with the Milwaukee Bucks. And oddly enough, Shamus is a Celtics fan and a Leaf fan. So I'm going to ask him who he's more confident in winning the respective series. And not only that, but it's interesting because he's a fan of both those teams, and they're both playing the defending Stanley Cup champion and defending champion in their respective sport. So I find that interesting as well. So we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about what Barry Trotz. I didn't get to this yesterday, but Barry Trotz getting fired completely came out of nowhere to me. I did not see that coming. Crazy that a coach gets fired after back-to-back trips to the conference final, and he had to start this year 13 games on the road to start the season. But somehow it's his fault, and a lot of coaches get to keep their job and they're pedestrian to awful. So we're going to talk about coaches remaining in the Stanley Cup playoffs, including Nashville, who were beaten out last night, that are on the hot seat, that are a little worried about their job security now that Barry Trotz is on the market and available, and might have a little extra motivation to win their first-round series because they might be getting the pink slip sooner rather than later. But let's start. A lot of great games last night, a lot to get into. Let's start Rangers Pens because I thought when the Celtics beat the Brooklyn Nets that the Celtics were going to win the NBA championship. And I was bullish about it in the time, and then I saw game 1 and Milwaukee won, and I got a little pushback on it myself. But that was my thought originally. And I probably should have stuck with it because I think the Celtics are going to beat the Milwaukee Bucks, and I think they're going to win the NBA championship. So I'm not backed off of that. I'm still pretty confident about it. Now, I'm not saying that the Pittsburgh Penguins should be the favorite to win the Stanley Cup. It's the first round. There's a lot of hockey to play. They got Louis Domingue in net. However, the Pittsburgh Penguins are a scary, scary team to everyone in the Eastern Conference. The New York Rangers were the better regular season team. They have the better players top to bottom. They got a lot of skill. They got probably the Vezina in net, which we'll talk about. But the Pittsburgh Penguins just have that winning factor, that killer instinct. We're never going to give in. And they've had years where they've had no success in the playoffs. They lost to the Montreal Canadiens in the bubble. They lost to the New York Islanders twice, who happened to go deep. But at the time, well, it's the New York Islanders. They have no skill, but they did have a good coach who is now on the market. But I look at the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they would scare the hell out of me. They haven't won this series yet, but I find it hard to believe that a Sidney Crosby-led team is going to give up a 3-1 series lead. I just have a hard time believing that. The way they're playing, and juxtaposing that, the way New York is playing defensively and in net is troubling, and I don't see a whole lot of hope and a whole lot of signs that point me to say, you know what, New York's going to figure it out. Igor Shesterkin's going to start making saves, and this team's on the right track. I don't see that yet anyway. But with Pittsburgh, they have such a balanced attack. They have such a dangerous team with Crosby, Gensel, Rust, Jeff Carter, Malkin, Danton Heinen. Last night, they get goals from Michael Matheson and Mark Friedman. Mark Friedman is only in the lineup because of an injury to Brian Dumoulin, but he's producing. Matheson scores a goal. They have a balanced team. And another thing Pittsburgh does extremely, extremely well is they are so good in transition. The New York Rangers get caught a lot where they try to make an extra pass or they shoot the puck off the half wall and it's blocked and it's turned the other way. And Pittsburgh is deadly when they have numbers because they have some extremely gifted passers on this team. Sidney Crosby is one of the best passers in the history of the National Hockey League. Evgeny Malkin is no slouch either. And when you have Crosby, Rust, who's an underrated passer, really good at finding open men, and you have a Jake Gensel who's finishing as good as anybody in the Stanley Cup Playoff so far because he's tied for the playoff lead in goals with 5. That's a deadly combination. Louis Domingue has been solid. He hasn't been fantastic, but has he outplayed Igor Shesterkin in this series? Yes. Yes. It's not a debate. Yes, he has. A third stringer has outplayed the Vezina winner. That is befuddling. That is crazy, but it's the flat out truth. So now, and we'll get to New York and kind of some of the problems I see with that team, but Pittsburgh so far in 4 games, Sidney Crosby has 9 points. Jake Gensel has 6 with 5 goals. Rust has 5 points. That's the top line, dominant. Jeff Carter has 3 goals. In 4 games, the guy's 37 years old. He's still bringing it. Evan Rodriguez, my guy, 3 points in 4 games. That's great production. Every line on this team provides something. The 4th line is the only line that gets outplayed. And that's what, Reeves and Brzezinski and Rooney were the only line. If you go 1-4 last night, where I think a line outplayed the opposing team, lining them up, I think the 4th line of New York was the only line that was better than Pittsburgh's 4th line. With Boyle and Teddy Bluger. Teddy Bluger is a good player. I like it. He's great in the penalty kill. But I think that's the only line in New York that outplayed them. That's it. Letang outplayed Fox. So your top defenseman each side. Letang outplayed Fox. Top to bottom, it was just a dominant Pittsburgh effort last night. And you're not going to win when your 4th line is your best line, unless you're Tampa playing the Leafs. So for Pittsburgh, that would scare me if I'm another team because this postseason is crazy. Pittsburgh's leading. Boston has the game-to-game momentum in that series against Carolina. We'll see if that holds up tonight. Leafs in Tampa, who knows? But if I'm any team that has to play the Pittsburgh Penguins, I am scared to death because I see the teams that have won. They're like this one. I mentioned yesterday, Pittsburgh has won a cup where they started 3 goalies to get there. Zakov, Murray, Fleury. That happened. They've started 2 already. Jari is going to come back eventually. So maybe they'll start 3 goalies again and they win another Stanley Cup. Why not? Crazier things have happened. Who had St. Louis winning the Cup in 19? Who believed Washington would get over the hump? And with this season, where Pittsburgh is in the driver's seat, and you got Washington, who's neck and neck with Florida, and you have Dallas, who's right there with Calgary. Who knows where that goes? LA is pressing the Oilers. You go through every series. The favorite is, other than Colorado, no favorite is sitting that pretty. They all got to worry. They all got to play important games in the first round. Pittsburgh might be out of the first round before any, other than Colorado, than any of these teams. Who had that? They could be sitting, resting, waiting for the Boston-Carolina winner. And I'd rather play Boston-Carolina than Tampa, Toronto, or Florida. Watch that side. I would rather play Carolina and or Pittsburgh. And or Carolina or Boston. I would. But that would worry me because I like the way the Penguins play with structure. I think they got one of the best coaches in the world in Mike Sullivan. I love his attitude in the bench. I love the way he interacts with referees, and he's so dismissive of them. Good. Half of them suck at their job, which they should be pointed out. But New York. New York. Well, I'm going to get to Shesterkin, but just broad strokes. As a team, the New York Rangers are lazy, lackadaisical, and they play stupid hockey. That's what I've seen through 4 games. They're lazy on their back check. They make lazy passes. Their defense is very lackadaisical. They throw reverse passes. Patrick Nemeth, Game 5, dress 5 defenseman. I would not play him. He's a flat-out liability. He doesn't have a shift where I go and say, okay, I want him on the ice. Every shift, it's a fucking adventure. Get him out of there. I don't care that Lindgren's injured. Play 5D. They dressed 7 in Calgary last night. Dress 5 because he is a fucking nightmare. Don't play him. But just the stupid plays that this team makes, the stupid penalties. And I see a lot of flash from Artemi Panarin. I see him have the puck. He makes people miss. But if you make a guy miss and you make a great pass and it doesn't get there, what was that for? It was nothing. It was a smoke and mirrors is what it is. If it doesn't result in anything positive, then it's just a play. Then it's a broken play. It's a turnover. If you make a great play, make a guy miss, and your pass goes to the other team, that is what you call a turnover. I think people think he's having a great series. I don't think he's having a great series at all. Mika Zibanejad is invisible. They don't have New York wanted to be a tougher team. That was their mandate after last season because Washington embarrassed them with Tom Wilson, how he beat the hell out of Panarin at the end of last season. I don't see a team that's that much tougher. Yes, you have Ryan Reeves, but with Lindgren out, this team, Pittsburgh is winning the battles. When they're in the corners, they're coming out with the puck. Rodriguez, Danton Heinen, Malkin plays with edge. I don't see that enough. The best New York forward in this series has been Andrew Copp, game in, game out. He's given a consistent effort, and it pays off. Panarin, sure, he's got the puck. He's dangerous. But what did he do in the power play last night? A whole lot of nothing. New York should have a more dangerous power play because you got Fox, you have Panarin, you have Zibanejad, you have Kreider, who had the most power play goals in the NHL with 27, and yet it looked non-existent last night. they just play in their own zone. They're so lackadaisical. They're so laissez-faire. It's as if it's not a playoff game. It's as if it doesn't matter. And it drives me crazy. Like Florida didn't play a great game at some points last night. They deserved to win, which they did. But when they were down, when it got to 2-1, they played like they had to fucking win the game. They had to go home 2-2. It was a must. They knew they had to find a way to score a goal to tie the game and then score a goal to win it. They did that. They showed some desperation. They played with heart. They played with, you know what? Okay, we've really dropped the ball here. We're a better team. And look at the position we're in. They realized it before it was too late. Now they go back 2-2. They have home ice. They are still in the catbird seat to win this series, to get out of it. New York is going home down 3-1, where in game 3, they go down 4-1 after a disastrous first period, and then they come all the way back, so you could say they showed desperation in that game. I think Domingue and the refs kind of bailed them out, and then Georgiev lets in the ugliest goal of the postseason so far from Danton Heinen. Then last night, I thought the first period was extremely close, extremely competitive. They had the lead early with Lafreniere. But after that, it was one team that wanted to win, that had heart, that had passion, and another team that was just out there for escape. Gerard Gallant took over for Quinn, David Quinn, who they said it was too lackadaisical. He didn't have the experience. He didn't have that killer instinct. And now I look at and I'm like, well, what's changed? What's changed under Gerard Gallant? When they played in the bubble and they played Carolina, I remember it was domination by Carolina. New York didn't have any fight. And it was a sweep where they thought it would be a really close series. It was not close at all. 3-game sweep. It was a best of 5. This is such a disappointment for New York. Can they turn this around? Yes. For Shesterkin, for him, I just see a goalie that's in terrible position. Positionally, he is out to lunch. You look at the Matheson goal last night, he's like out of his crease. He's coming up to shots and he's pushing way too far. I'm not a goalie expert, but he looks erratic. He doesn't look set. And that's why half of these goals are going in. The Crosby first goal that was the Gensel shot, if you recall, and then Crosby kind of whacked it in and they had to review the play for 8 minutes. I don't know why. But that goal went in because Shesterkin originally made the save and he couldn't corral it. He couldn't find his balance to stop. He rolled into the net. You just make that save, the whistle's gone. It's not a goal. It's not 1-1. That was a bad goal. Matheson, bad goal. Gensel's wasn't his fault. This is a beautiful pass and a broken play. But throughout the game last night, he had let in at least 3 bad goals. 3 to 4. He is a great goaltender. He might win the Vezina Trophy. I think Markstrom's right there with him. But we're in a position where potentially every award winner, individual award for the regular season winner, could be out in the first round. What if Yossi wins the Norris? Is that out of the realm of possibility? He finished with the most points, and that's the criteria now. Win the Norris Trophy, you have to have the most points. He should win it over Makar then. If that's the standard, he should win it. He just got swept. Igor Shesterkin, I believe, will win the Vezina. He might lose in 5 games, and he gets outplayed by an American Hockey League goaltender, Louis Domingue. That very well could happen. He'd be out in the first round. Austin Matthews might win the Hart Trophy. Likely will. What if he loses to Tampa? That would be 3 individual award winners. Some of the biggest out in the first round. Norris, best defenseman, best goalie, best player. All out in the first round. What does that say? I mean, I'm going to have to do a deep dive into this and really kind of get my brain. We'll do a show about this because if that happens, I'm talking about it. I'm going to have to because what does that say about the National Hockey League? That the best players are gone in the first round. That all can't be because it's so barbaric. The refs are calling everything. They're calling it like the regular season. You think that would benefit some of these guys? Namely, Yossi and Austin Matthews primarily. Hasn't happened yet. But if it does, wow. If McDavid's looped in there, if he's nominated for the Hart Trophy, Saros got nominated for the Vezina. Didn't play in the first round. He's still out. Still home. It's crazy. It's crazy. Because in the NBA right now, Nikola Jokic won the MVP yesterday. And boy, is there a lot of pushback because he's the MVP, lost in the first round, lost in 5 games, back-to-back MVPs, and everybody has something to say about it because he's not playing in the postseason. He's always the MVP, and he's at home. Embiid should have won it. He's still playing. It's a regular season award. But the fact that Jokic isn't playing and Embiid is, that does make you think, doesn't it? Who is more valuable? You can't help but think in your own mind, well, let's say the Norris. If Makar and Hedman are playing in the second round, just bear with me, and Yossi is home golfing, back in Switzerland, doing whatever the hell he's doing, is he more valuable to his team than Makar and Hedman are to theirs? Because it wouldn't seem that way. Because if he was, wouldn't he still be playing? He just lost to Cale Makar straight up. And Cale Makar had 9 points in the series. It's pretty good. But that is just a fascinating discussion. If it happens, we're going to talk about it. Because I don't know what to make of it yet. I'm really going to think about it. But when you see the award nominees and you see who is going out in these playoffs, you're like, wow. All these award winners, the best regular season players, are home. Wow. The slums, while the guys who couldn't be nominated are winning. So interesting. So interesting. I was going to go to Panthers Caps because what a game that was last night. But and we'll talk about Shesterkin and the Rangers tomorrow and see what they can bring. Colorado Avalanche are through to the second round. They sweep the Nashville Predators. No surprise. I mean, Colorado got Nashville, the worst team to make the playoffs, in my opinion. And Nashville's also beat up. Connor Ingram did his best, but eventually Colorado had too much firepower. I mentioned Cale Makar, who had 9 points in the first round. Gabe Landeskog played great. Kadri played well, didn't get suspended. So it was a perfect just beat down from Colorado. They're going to get lots of rest, and we'll see where that takes them moving forward. But with the Avs, them dominating a first-round series is not surprising. Because in the last 3 years, including this one, so this is the bubble, last season, and then this playoff. Last 3 years, first round, bubble, sweep. Last year, 5-game series win. And then a sweep this season. So the first round has been just a walkover. It's been an easy series. It's been no big deal. Let's just get through it. Let's get lots of rest. We'll push our way through. But then last year, they had all kinds of time. They had rest. They had time. They played Vegas, and Vegas had a long series that went 7 games with the Minnesota Wild last year. They dominated Vegas in game 1. They ended up losing that series in 6. So I think the instant reaction is, well, Colorado's the best team in the NHL, and they should be the favorite to win the Stanley Cup. I think that's an overreaction because we've seen Colorado do this before. Colorado deserves no more leeway. To me, the teams like Pittsburgh, Tampa, I can't think of a team out west. Maybe St. Louis, maybe, but then again, I have them going deep, but they could very well lose to Minnesota. There's not really a team out west that I look at and I'm 100% confident in. But Tampa, Pittsburgh, these teams that have won multiple championships deserve the benefit of the doubt more than Colorado, deserve more credence, deserve more respect because they've won. Colorado, sweep, 5-game series sweep the last 3 years. That just because they swept the first round does not mean they're going to do anything. Sure, they look dominant. Sure, Makar looks like he's on his way to winning a Conn Smythe, but that doesn't mean he's going to. I am never going to be on the Colorado bandwagon until I see them really, to be point blank here, till I see them beat a tough team, till I see them go into a series where it's physical, where it's extremely difficult, and they come out with a winner. Because when have they? They haven't. Whenever they get to an opponent that's tougher than them, that's difficult to play against, they fold. Colorado, on FanDuel, they have the best odds to win the Stanley Cup today. So you're not going to get much good betting money, putting money on the Colorado Avalanche. Go ahead if you want to. Harry Shootenbell, see you in the comments. Good to talk to you, Harry. That second round series could be the Cup final if it was 1-16. Yeah, could be. Yeah, I don't disagree. Don't disagree. But they're a great team. However, they just don't. They always find a way to lose. They don't find a way to win. Where I look at Pittsburgh, they scare me more than Colorado does because I know Pittsburgh can win. Crosby's a closer. He's got that killer instinct. That team does. Colorado doesn't. Nathan McKinnon can talk about how he wants to win. He's frustrated. He hasn't done anything in the league since he entered. Great. Lip service is great. It's a good quote. You seem like you're a warrior after the season, and people will have your back forever and say, well, that's great for McKinnon to really show how much he wants to win. But if you don't win, then it's just a comment. Then it's just a quote that people from the Maritimes, people from Colorado can get behind and say, oh, that McKinnon, he's a great player. He's a warrior, but you can't say he's a champion. Not yet. And Colorado's a great team. They have all the pieces to win. Kemper's not going to be out long. He'll be ready to play game 1 of the second round, whenever that is. They're going to get an extended break. I wouldn't be shocked if you see St. Louis, Minnesota go 7, which that would if it goes that way, that series will only end Saturday. So the earliest they play is next Monday, game 1. So they're going to get an extended break. They'll practice. They'll heal up. They'll be ready for game 1. But if whoever they get, St. Louis or Minnesota, are going to be a tough matchup. They play much slower pace. They play heavier. But do I think Minnesota or St. Louis could beat Colorado in a 7-game series? You bet your bottom dollar they can. I think either team can. I think either team, I'll say this, when that series comes out, you can bet, I know on FanDuel, you can go on and bet on the series, who you see winning it. I'll put my money on the opposition because I just don't trust Colorado enough to do it. Plus, I'm going to get good odds. So I'll take the odds over the favorite. Why would I bet on the favorite? That's boring. I applaud Drake at least for betting on Gaethje, the underdog. It's a stupid bet. I wouldn't have made it, but it didn't hurt me to see him lose $400,000 the other day. But that's a whole other story for another day. But Avs, good team, but do I trust them any more than I did to start the postseason? Do I fear them any more than I did to start the postseason? No. I don't. And I don't think you should either, because they beat a team that they should have beat. They beat a team with a third-string goalie, and Roman Josi didn't particularly have a great series. So that's it there. Florida Panthers, Washington Capitals. What a game last night. Bouncing between games. I brought my TV from the studio home. I got my other TV, and I got my computer because I had to watch that Celtics Bucks game, which turned out to be a great game as well. Some great action last night in the sports world. But the Florida Panthers are such a frustrating team, because I talked about yesterday how I don't expect the Florida Panthers to play better defensively. I don't expect them to make smarter decisions. But at the same time, I said that to you all, knowing that they wouldn't. But then I watched them play, and I'm like, God, that's a stupid play. How many times do they have the puck at the Washington blue line and they make a stupid decision? Where they could dump the puck in, they could make a pass, just do something. But they try to carry it in, they turn it over, they hit a shin pad, and it goes the other way. Sam Bennett on the second goal has the puck. He's at the opposing blue line. TJ Oshie just takes his head off. Great hit. Loved it. TJ Oshie's had a great series. Hits Bennett. Ovi goes the other way. He picks up the puck from the hit. Finds Kuznetsov. He gets behind the defenseman. Beats goalie Bob. He does his stupid bird dance. It's 2-1. But it was that play that I think changed Florida and might have changed the series. We'll see how that goes. But that was a hit that was questionable. It was high. Bennett did get hit in the head. I don't think Oshie should be suspended. I don't think he should be fined. But at the time, it looks close. But I thought it was a clean. I liked the hit. I had no problem with it. No suspension. No reviewing. Don't slow the game down anymore. The NHL is trying to ruin the product by the amount of times they review plays that have no business being reviewed. But I digress. But at this point in the game, I think it changed the series, because I mentioned New York yesterday never showed desperation, never played like they had to win. Florida did. They said, holy shit. We're down 2-1 in this series. We're down 2-1 tonight. There's 8 minutes left. We got to win here. We got to find a way to win this game. And they did. They battled back. And me and Shane, when Shamus joins me in a bit, we're going to talk about coaches that are on the hot seat now that Barry Trotz is available. I believe Andrew Brunette ass was on fire last night, because I think he knows if he loses in the first round, he will not be back as head coach. He's there on an interim basis to begin with. Quenneville was the guy they hired. Brunette was on the staff. I don't think they're in love with him. He had a great season, won the President's Trophy, but Dwayne Casey got fired when he won Coach of the Year in the NBA. Andrew Brunette can get fired in the NHL. And with 3 minutes left, off an icing from Lars Eller, he pulls the goalie. It was ballsy. It was gutsy. It almost hurt him, because John Carlson had a shot at the empty net. He hit the post, and it goes back down the other way, and Sam Reinhart finds a way to put the puck in the back of the net to tie it at 2. And huge goal. We go to overtime, and you just feel that the momentum was shifting. And Carter Verhaeghe gets the overtime winner. Again, they reviewed this goal. It was such a clear goal, and I can do a whole show on fucking video review and all of sports, how much I hate it. The NBA with the flagrants, every other play, it's a flagrant 4, 6, 7, whatever the hell it is now. But Carter Verhaeghe gets his second of the game. He's leading Florida in points for this series. The clutch guy who was a waiver claim from Tampa Bay Lightning, couldn't afford him anymore. They put him on waivers. He's been a godsend in Florida. But he gets the winner. And okay, that was some really good resolve from Florida. I thought Ekblad had a phenomenal game, his best game since coming back from injury. I think he's played pretty well in this series. He was fantastic last night. But then I really thought about it. I'm like, wow, okay, Florida won that game because I'm getting ready to watch Dallas and Calgary and settling in to really pick apart that game and get my notes and everything and just finish Celtics Bucks as well. So a lot was happening. But as I'm sitting there watching the game, listening to Fleetwood Mac, Harrison shooting bell. They should go back to their 5-forward power play. I like Ekblad in the power play. I maybe that's just me being a big homer of him. I love Aaron Ekblad. I will agree with you, Harry. If there is a team that could do it effectively, it is Florida because they have so many options with Huberdeau and Barkov. And to be honest, Verhaeghe's earning a spot. You got Sam Reinhart, who's deadly in front of the net at just finding loose pucks. But if Florida is a team that's going to do it, it's certainly them. But as I sat there kind of processing this, I said, wow, Washington threw this game away. Washington had this series. They had it by the throat. 2-1 lead. They win last night. I think they win the series. I really do. And I think they just lost it. Maybe they'll come back and win it. But I just look at the team and I'm like, wow, they blew this game. They had it. And they let it slip away. It was locked in. Up 3-1. Okay, you go back to Florida. They have home ice and game 5, but you have another home game where you can close out this series. You're in prime position. And I just believe they let it slip away. Samsonov played fantastic. Kept them in the game because Florida played way better than them last night, but they capitalized on opportunities. Their veterans have played so well. Carlson and Oshie and Ovi have done it all. They get no production from their depth, but their key veterans have played fantastic. But I think up 3-1, they could find a way. But Florida has so many options. Harry just mentioned, the power play with the 5 forwards. Huberdeau and Barkov have so much more to give. Anthony Duclair has so much more to give. There's so many guys on this team that are dangerous, that haven't really woken up yet. Carter Verhaeghe leads this team in points. I love him, but he's not even the 5th or 6th most dangerous forward on this team. Mason Marchman has been one of the most productive forwards. He plays a 4th-line role. I like him a lot too. But Florida has so many options. Ekblad can produce. Weegar on the back end can produce offense. Montour. And I just think for Washington, if you could have won both games at home, then you just have to win your game at home in game 6. And you're smooth sailing. And they let it slip away. I expect Florida to come out the next in game 5 and win the game handily. I expect them to play their best game of the series, better than they did in game 2. And just prove that they are the better team because Florida is better than Washington. Give Washington credit. They played fantastic in this period, in this series. But I believe last night was a blown opportunity. It slipped away from the Capitals, and they will rue the day that they allowed Florida back in. Carlson missing that empty net, I think he'll remember that one for a long time because you gave life to a team with a lot of just great players. And Washington has great veterans like Ovi, like Oshie. Backstrom's turned back the clock. Carlson. But Florida just has more to give. The depth of Washington is very, very limited. Connor McMichael. I love Garnet Hathaway, but he brings nothing to the table offensively. And Harry Hughes at the puck hit the net behind the goal line for the icing. Absolutely. Yeah, that changed the game because they won it on that face-off. That hits the post, you don't get an icing. It's just a reset. That gave Florida time to get the draw. You bark off on the draw, he's going to win it, and they set up from there, and Reinhart taps it in. It completely changed the game. I don't blame Carlson for going for the empty net. He almost had it, but he missed by a little bit. And with that play, it's feast or famine, like our betting segment here. You miss that. The guys had already been on the ice for almost 2 minutes. They're gassed. You can't take a timeout. And then Florida has their big boys on the ice, and that's a recipe for disaster. And Florida made them pay for it. So credit to Florida. I mean, credit to Washington so far. They were really, the back half of the season, they were a disaster. You didn't know who was going to play in goal game to game. Ovi was hurt. He really cooled down the stretch. Oshie wasn't in the lineup. Backstrom looked completely spent to me. But they found a way to be competitive here. Maybe they'll bring it in Game 5. Maybe they'll make this a series. But I expect Florida to really start to play like the team that won the President's Trophy and that looked like a juggernaut earlier in this season. We'll see, but that's what I expect from the Florida Panthers going forward. Stars Flames, last game of the night. First, I just thought of this, and I made a list before the show about all the goaltending matchups in this postseason. So you got Jake Ottinger versus Jacob Markstrom. You got Shesterkin, Louis Domingue, goalie Bob Samsonov. You got Vasilevsky, Jack Campbell, Darcy Kemper, Connor Ingram, Mike Smith, Jonathan Quick, Jeremy Swayman, Antti Ranta, and Binnington / Husso and Marc-Andre Fleury. I know the best goaltending matchup when you talk about play has been Ottinger versus Markstrom, for sure. So far, I don't think it's close because but what's the second best matchup? Goaltending matchup. Which one's second? Because the goaltending in this playoffs has been horrid. After this series, what is the next best? Really start to think about it because it has not been pretty. If you talk about both goalies playing well, both goalies stealing games for teams, you're not going to find it. Is the second best matchup Quick and Smith? And Quick got pulled twice. Quick at least has a shutout. Smith has a shutout. I'm not saying either guy's been great in their losses, but that might be the second best. Swayman's been great in both his starts. Is it Swayman and Antti Ranta? But that's just a thought. Just something to ponder as I get into the Flames here. If you have any thoughts about that, because I think it's really interesting. But I give credit last night to the Calgary Flames top guys. Because after watching the first period, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to get snake bitten again because Jake Ottinger was phenomenal. He robs Tyler Toffoli and just the ridiculous save. He made a huge save on Elias Lindholm right in the slot. He stopped Anderson. He just looked dialed in from the start. He's been the best goalie of the postseason so far. And he is just he's just confident. He feels ready to play. And I'm like, okay, Calgary's going to lose this game again because Jake Ottinger is just too damn good, quite frankly. But then I give credit to the Calgary Flames players for doing what they did, especially the top guys, because I talked about their top line, and Tkachuk didn't have a great game last night, but I do think it was his best game of the postseason for sure, just with how he played last night. He had pushback. Yes, he did a little too much after the whistle, which I didn't love, but Gaudreau scores on a penalty shot. Elias Lindholm scores another goal, of course, the best player on the team. Rasmus Andersson, their number one defenseman, comes up with a big goal. They score on the power play, which has been a big struggle for them. And they change it up. Daryl Sutter goes with 11 forwards. He goes with 11 forwards last night and 7 defensemen with Michael Stone inserted. I thought Michael Stone played well. I thought he brought something new to the table where Shillington was kind of needed some shielding. He's had a tough series. But I like, again, if you're a defenseman, if you're a parent of a defenseman, you hate seeing 7D on the back end. But I thought he brought something new to the table. They took out Brett Ritchie. Lewis and Lucic and Toffoli were a great line on that fourth line. I credit Calgary because Ottinger, I thought the first period, great. This is going to be another night where the best goalie of the 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs stands on his head again. He's been the best guy so far. Can't say he's got a lot of competition because there's been a lot of crap out there, but they got to him, and you got to give them credit for that. Speaking of the Calgary Flames and nice red shirts, I see our guest coming in today. I'm going to bring him in. Looking good, looking sharp after battling COVID, and always looks good. I should add, he's a good-looking guy. But
thanks, man.
Always here on Tuesday is Shamus Fillmore. Shay, good to see you.
Hey, happy to be back on the local. Apologies to anyone who listened to last Tuesday. That was a horrendous performance by me. Can you hear me?
Can't hear you, buddy.
Oh, 1 second. Hear me now?
No, I could hear you a little bit there.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
1 sec, everybody. Let's see if we can.
Can you hear me now? Oh, but yeah, like I was saying, apologize to anyone who listened to last week. It's Tuesday episode. Juggy said, I was battling a lot of COVID. Didn't feel the greatest. Yeah, really took all I had to get through that episode. So I'm gonna bounce back performance on this one. Got a lot of coach talk. Hopefully, getting some playoff talk. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Can you hear me now? No? Something on my end. Can't hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I'm going to try and switch headphones here. Bear with us a second. Hello. Hello. Bum, 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 bum. We are experiencing technical difficulties. I ramble on about the Leafs, but I don't feel like anyone wants to listen to that anymore.
You got me.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay.
Gotcha. No, my computer decided it was a good time to update while I was restarting. So I'm always so patient when it comes to
Technology.
technological things. But no, Shay, how are things? I like the red shirt. I was talking about the Flames, so that ties in well. But how are things in the world for you after your bout with COVID?
Yeah, man, feeling a lot better. Like I was telling anyone who was listening, appreciate everyone listening to me last week because that was a struggle to get through that episode. You know, players talk about having bad games. Well, that was about bad podcast for your one and only boy over here. So I appreciate everyone who still listened. And yeah, we're gonna have a bounce back here. Lots to talk about, getting some playoff talk, and yeah, excited to bounce some ideas off you. But how have you been? The stash is looking very sharp.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you because I've got nothing but negativity on the mustache so far. You're the one person. That's nice of you to say. I've gotten Ron Jeremy quotes. I've been called nothing positive, like not Burt Reynolds or something nice where I'm like, okay, that's endearing. Do I shave it? Do I keep it? What are your thoughts?
Is there a purpose to it? Is there something meaningful
I
to
wanted to
you?
try something different, to be honest, and just see. I had a beard for a little while, and I kept the stash just to say I had it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's fine with me. I love growing just a little mustard. I don't have any. If I could grow any sort of dark stash, then I would. I don't have that luxury. All mine are gray or yellow or something going on. So I envy anyone who can grow a stash. But no, I keep it if I were you. I mean, what do you got to lose?
That's true. I'm not picking up any women now, so it's not going to I think this could only help it. So,
Fair.
Walker, Jug, you're looking George Peros-esque with that stat. Hey, I'll take that.
Finally, some compliments coming
I think
in.
he's a good-looking guy, George Peros myself, and Ivy League, smart guy, Department of Player Safety. I don't know. I'll take the Peros. I'm gonna keep it and then keep the hair as well, just out of spite because nobody likes the hair. So I just want to get that fashion and my looks talk off. Just get that out of the way. But I had a question for you off the top. Because I thought about this morning because you're coming on today, and I said you're a fan of the Celtics and the Leafs, and you're in an interesting position because both your teams are playing the defending champions of the respective leagues, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah.
Which team do you have more confidence in advancing to the next round?
That pins me in a position. I got one team that's falling asleep and the other one that wakes up, and that seems to happen every other night. If it wasn't for Giannis, it'd be an easy Boston, but he just keeps them in every single game, every single night. I'm gonna go with Boston because I think Tampa's a stronger team. Then that's no freight to the Milwaukee Bucks. I think they've played excellent. And they've done exactly what they're supposed to. It just, I just think if you're looking at the two opponents, I'd much rather take on the Bucks than that three-headed monster.
Yeah, I probably agree. And no Middleton hurts the Bucks because last night it was a great game, Bucks Celtics. And I just felt Giannis ran out of gas because he didn't have anybody to really turn to down the stretch, and he looked spent. Like Boston had the Al Horford game where that might have been the best game he's ever played, and he's 35. And OKC traded him for like a bag of dirt, whatever they gave back, in return for there, and he I thought he was better than Tatum last night because he was consistent the whole game. Tatum was garbage in the first half and came alive. But I just worry. I think the Celtics have more to throw at the Bucks consistently than the Bucks do right now.
Yeah, I can agree with that statement. And in the Al Horford thing, he's been the most consistent and the best Celtic throughout the playoffs, in my opinion. And I'd match that up with anybody. Tatum has his games, has his sparks, but no one consistently plays hard defensively and does it on the other end like Al Horford. So good for him. 35. I hope I'm doing. If I'm I'm in that great a shape at 35, I'm doing something right. I think you will be. I don't know about myself.
I know.
But yeah, no, I completely agree. Like when you shut down Drew Holiday, who's obviously their second best player right now without Chris Middleton in the lineup, Milwaukee is a one-man unit. And I mean, Giannis can't go out there and score 50 points and grab 20 boards every game. He's going to be worn out. He already looks semi-worn out throughout this series.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if they do move on. I hope they don't, because I hope Boston does. But if they do move on, how much gas is going to be left in the tank for Giannis to put up with a Joel Embiid or a really deep Miami roster? So it's been a great series so far. I love that Mike Budenholzer, took Bobby Portis and put him on the bench last game instead of having him. That means he's not afraid to make changes and throw guys into different rotations, in playoff series, which has been really heated. I know we disagreed on the Marcus Smart call in game 3. Clearly, I thought that was 3 shots. You thought it was only 2. I think you and the refs might be the only 2 people who thought that. But nevertheless, they come back. They win last night's game, which I agree was fantastic. Jason Tatum finally woke up. I just feel like he's scared to go in the paint. And I mean, you've said this before too. A lot of the Celtics, they don't want to get in there and they don't want to get dirty. Tatum's no exception to that rule. When he does get in there, it's scary for him, and he's often going in and just kicking it out to somebody on the side.
Yeah, that's a good point because it was kind of a turning point last night where Giannis kind of showed up Al Horford, and Horford was just like, "Oh, you're gonna pull that with me? Okay." And he gives him like the head nod like 3 times, and he was fired up. Like he got that and one on Giannis, and then Tatum got an and one late that kind of ended the game. Maybe that spark, because you got to feel good that you got one guy to beat. And maybe the Bucks are kind of like the Nets last year, if you remember, where Harden was like hamstring, couldn't play, couldn't hit the backside of a barn. And it was Durant by himself, basically, against Milwaukee, where Holiday, if he's not hitting his shots, which he didn't in game 3 and game 4, it's kind of Giannis. And is Connaughton his second best option? Like, I like Connaughton a lot. I think he plays really good defense. And Wes Matthews he plays extremely well. Nothing offensively, but he guards well. He plays extremely tough defensively. But to get a bucket consistently, I don't trust Holiday's a better defensive player than he is. I trust him to make a big 3 in a clutch moment.
Yeah, he was much better in games 1 and 2, I thought. He had some great those offensive sparks, but that seems to be going away. And I think that just that goes right into where Marcus Smart is more. He's healthier than, say, those couple games. He missed one game they won, besides not having him in game 2. But he's back. He's able to guard them, shut them down. And when you shut Holiday down, you really do take away, that second option, because Brook Lopez, as good as he has, maybe 3 feet in, he's not much else other than that. I don't know. This is going to be interesting down the stretch, because you think about Robert Williams. I don't know what his health status is. If he can get him back, he didn't play last night either.
I wouldn't play him.
No,
I like him better when he's not in there.
Yeah. Well, they did play really well, and he didn't touch the court. So yeah. I don't know. It's a risk. It's risky, but Al Horford's doing the job, and he's consistent. He sprays threes. And he really spreads the floor, being that big guy out there that you have to step out and guard. Brook Lopez has to go out and guard him, or whether it's Giannis has to move, and that does create lanes for other guys to get in there. So just more attacking the paint is what I'd like to see from Boston, if anything.
If Boston wins this series, how confident are you they get to an NBA final?
I'm pretty confident. I worry about Miami. I think that Miami is really good structurally defensively. But if Boston was going in pretty hot, I don't think they'd be much of a problem because this year I think they matched up pretty well in the regular season. Miami's a great team. I'm not going to take that away from them. But there is certainly holes in that team. The only thing, like if you look at Philly right now, Philly's doing a good job of taking away some of the 3-pointers, but Miami still, they just shoot up 3-pointers. That's what they have. They have great guys on the perimeter. And I think Boston defends a little bit better than Philadelphia would. So it'd be a little bit of a tighter series.
Yeah, I think whoever wins this series is going to win the NBA title.
I think it's a good chance they go to
such a heavyweight fight. Like both these teams are playing such good defense. Like it looks like they're shooting bad, which they are, but it's also because you mentioned Giannis is D'ing people up, and Tatum and Smart and Derek White, I thought played great last night. He played his heart out. He's playing tough. And Grant Williams gives you everything he has. Like he doesn't have the greatest offensive game, but he gives you everything he has. And I just think, Embiid is always going to be a mismatch. Whether he could play Milwaukee. Who's going to guard him? Lopez? Good luck. In Boston, if it's Tice or Williams, whoever, it's going to be a mismatch. But you'll find a way because is Harden going to be a guy? No, to me, Maxey becomes Philly's second best player in these playoffs just by osmosis because Harden is just not consistent enough game in, game out.
Mm-hmm. Did you see that clip where Harden goes to sit down next to Maxey and he automatically gets up?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the chemistry balance you need to know about Philadelphia and what Harden does to a team.
Yeah. West, Golden State 3-1. I think they got it now. I wouldn't be surprised unless Ja can come back game 5. I wouldn't be surprised even if they close it out on the road because I give Memphis credit. They played tough last night and they kept, they covered the number, but they didn't win the game. But Dallas, Luka Doncic and Finney Smith, who's all of a sudden just Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, just nailing just Jimmy after Jimmy. How 1 to 10? How scared do you think the Phoenix Suns are right now?
I think they're a good 7-8.
Yeah,
because I think they probably had a lot of confidence coming into this series, thinking this is a one-man show. We're going to run these guys, and Dallas did exactly what they were supposed to at home. They just had to play solid at home, and DeAndre Ayton sometimes just he has good games, but sometimes he just looks lost out there, and he doesn't bounce back like he should. And this is a series where you're taking on Norman Powell. Like, God forbid, I didn't know Norman Powell played like 18 years for the Dallas Mavericks, but the guy is not exactly an all-star caliber center. So you need to figure that out real quick.
Yeah, because Dallas's role players are giving more than Phoenix's.
Absolutely.
Like Bridges gave you nothing the last 2 games. Can't make a shot. But you look at Kleba and Finney Smith and Reggie Bullock. Like these guys are providing more than Cam Payne and Cam Johnson. Like it's funny because I never thought that would be the case, but Luka didn't even play that great in game 4. He shot terrible. He shot 9 of 25, and they won that game pretty comfortably.
Yeah, he's going to put it up. It doesn't matter if he's shooting poorly or not. That's one thing about Luka. He'll always cover whatever bets for shots. But I 100% agree. Dallas, obviously I don't watch many of the games, but I try to tune into the highlights every time they come on in the mornings. And it seems to be the case. It's just Dallas is collectively just playing just a tad bit better than the Suns are. And you wouldn't think that'd be the case with looking at these two rosters, but yeah, kudos to them. If they upset this, the Western Conference champions, they're really cementing themselves as a team that's come back since 4 or 5 years ago when they were a bottom feeder. And I'd love to see them go to a finals because it'd just be a Cinderella story, in my opinion.
It'd be kind of, I think they had more flavor in 2011, but nobody had them winning. in the final in
No.
2011.
Yeah,
Like
no.
it was LeBron cakewalk, his first final, his first championship finally, and Dirk slapped him across the head. Speaking of MVPs, Nikola Jokic awarded the regular season MVP yesterday. A lot of people had an opinion on it. A lot of people that are not big Jokic guys. I know Doc Rivers today said the analytics people are giving too much credit. And, of course, he's backing his guy Embiid. But what'd you make of Jokic winning, and would you have voted for him?
I can't remember what exactly we said. He might have not even been in my top three when we had this conversation last time. I think I had three different guys. But am I going to put my arms up and scream, Joel Embiid should have been the MVP? Like, what the hell is wrong? Like, no, like, at the end of the day, Jokic was a better rebounder. He did more for his team than Embiid did for his team. Like, if you look at the roster that the Denver Nuggets had and said, oh, this team is going to get to like a 4 or 5 seed, I would have pimp slapped you across the face because you wouldn't know what you're talking about. And this one guy got them to where they were. And yeah, they got dominated in the first round. Everyone's going to talk about that. Oh, how can you give him the MVP? Well, it's the MVP of the regular season. And, he just played lights out. And he did it every single night. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was taking nights off. He played really well every single time he was on the court.
Yeah, it's so tough because I heard Dan Patrick make this argument today, and I think it's smart. They should give out this award before the playoffs start.
Absolutely.
Because it looks so much worse that Embiid, Devin Booker, whoever you want to put in that, Luka, Giannis, whoever you want to put in that discussion, they're all playing. And Jokic is at home. So it's easy to throw, shade at, as the kids would say, at Jokic for being out of the first round, being the only guy not playing, and he wins the award. If you give this out the day before the playoffs start, which they could, because you could get it out before if you really wanted to, it would stop this makes no sense and this is stupid and the Twitter backlash from this player getting the award when he's not in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I don't really think Joker cares all that much. Like this point, He's won his MVP. He probably wants to see playoff success and go for a deep run. And most interesting thing, he's a UFA at the end of this year. And he hasn't re-signed yet. Is he staying in Denver? Or is he going? Does he want to win elsewhere? I feel like he loves Denver, and I feel like he loves that team. But he's got 2 MVPs in the bag. Does he really need to think about his individual accolades anymore?
Yeah, I think you would trade both MVPs for 1 ring.
Absolutely, yeah. Seems like that kind of guy.
But you got Jamal Murray coming back. Like, you never know. The West is not – Phoenix could be a different team next year. Ayton is a restricted free agent. Maybe he's not in Phoenix. Chris Paul's 37 years old. He's not a spring chicken. The Lakers are a disaster. The Clippers are always hurt. Like, you never know. Utah could break up. So – could be some opportunities for Denver to make some noise next season with Jokic and Canada's own Jamal Murray. Leafs. We'll get to the big topic I teased earlier about the coaches on the hot seat, which I just think is interesting with Barry Trotz being available. But your Leafs, Game 5 tonight at the Scotiabank Arena. Let's hope that it's loud and not the library, as I like to call it occasionally. Obviously, Sunday night was a disaster. The game was over, puck drop. But the first, games 1 and 3, Toronto were the better team. They won the game. So if it sticks to the pattern, they should win tonight. But how are you feeling going into the game tonight?
This is cliche, but this is Jekyll and Hyde. 1 minute they look like the best team in the NHL, where they're spanking Tampa Bay around. Power play looks great, and they're not taking stupid penalties. The next night, they look completely opposite. If we're going on this trend, I guess they are going to be, Dr. Hyde, and they're going to play really well tonight, and they're going to go out there with a full-on effort. William Nylander's got his backlash from that awful, awful game he just played on Sunday. And maybe he comes back and he's motivated and he wants to score. JT, that line is just out to lunch, and they were out to lunch on Sunday too. Like that was very difficult to watch, even as a hockey fan, let alone a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. On my confidence level, I'm a 55 right now that we can pull off a dub. So I'm not too confident, but I don't know. Like it seems to be the case where Tampa Bay wants to lose a game and then they want to win a game. Then maybe they're doing this on purpose. Maybe it's like, okay, we're gonna pull at the heartstrings of all the Leafs fans. We're gonna get to Game 7 where they're supposed to win, and they get dominated like 8-0 or something. But I don't know. That just seems the way it to be. Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's always nervous. It's been a nervous wreck this entire series, and that's how I feel going into this game.
Yeah, I think if the Leafs win tonight, they win the series. And I feel similarly for Tampa. If Tampa wins tonight, the series over in 6, because I don't see the Leafs winning back-to-back games in both must-win, because I haven't seen them do that ever. Especially this group. I've seen this group play playoff games together, and they choke. But to me, tonight's game is about Austin Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
He had a great regular season, probably will win the Hart Trophy, but you don't want to be the Nikola Jokic of the NHL where you're at home and all the other guys who are nominated or in that position are still playing. To me, in games 3 and 4, he was a non-factor. He didn't have a big impact on winning. Game 4, I mean, it was over for it, but even game 3, he got an assist on a goal. Great. Nerds will think he had a good game because he had a good plus-minus. He had an assist. I didn't see him do all that much, have that big of an impact. Marner has had more of an impact because he plays the penalty kill, and Toronto has done a relatively good job at containing a great Tampa power play. So I think tonight is the Austin Matthews game because he didn't play well last year either. Marner took the brunt of the criticism, but Matthews was just as invisible in those big games against the Habs. So to me, is 34 tonight is the guy I'm watching to see what he brings to the table.
Be an impact player and go out and get the first goal. Because every time you get the first goal, your team wins. So get that hot start, catch maybe a relaxed Tampa Bay team. They're coming, they just dominated. Maybe they're like, oh, we're going to do this again. Go in and really, really play hard and try and get that first one, especially if you're Matthews or, even if it's setting somebody up, you know what I mean? Still just playing hard. I agree. Like he didn't have a great, none of the Leafs had a great game 4, but to be honest, but it's about bouncing back from that, not coming to that same trend and staying in that same, that same lane of, okay, I'm just going to do the bare minimum and hopefully other people will pick it up. Nobody else is picking it up unless your name's David Kampf. Nobody else is doing that. But seriously, David Kampf's played really well throughout the series.
Yeah. So. He's been their most consistent forward.
Yeah, so give him a break and maybe work on that $11 million contract you're getting paid for.
Yeah. Maybe don't start the game with Justin Hall on the ice either. That's
awful. That was the worst turnover I've probably ever seen in my life. Like I could have thrown a better pizza up the middle, probably. Oh, that was bad. Brutal to watch. Is Liljegren in it tonight?
It's Hall's back in.
Yeah, that comment too I love that the reporter, some Leaf fans might think that was disrespect.
I love that was a great question.
Ripped him. Yeah, he ripped him and he had a right to rip him. He played like shit, so
yeah,
why not?
No, I thought that was a great question. I would have asked it. I wish I did because I thought it was fair too because Keith clearly thinks he's the worst defenseman. He was a healthy scratch in games 1 and 2. If he was so great, he wouldn't be eating poutine like PK at the Olympics. But yeah, I would feel pretty good because again, it's hard to feel I get for Leaf fans. There's a lot of scar tissue. There's a lot of
You see this hairline? This is all Leafs right up here, folks. Yeah, that's not school or work. That's the Toronto Maple Leafs causing that.
Right. It's not a bad client. That's just the Leafs. Yeah. So, as a fan in the playoffs, do you enjoy watching Toronto, or is it more of like a job? Like, what's it like watching these games?
No, I genuinely do get excited to watch the games, and even after I hurt, like I did Sunday night, and I hurt bad, but I still look forward to it, and I'm like, okay, this is a chance to watch your team perform, and when they play well, they play well. even game 2, like the first period was all Leafs, and the momentum was when Hedman scored that goal. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, you're playing down now. Well, and then things just run away from there. But you really just do have to have that good first period. But scoring that first goal just seems to be like crucial.
Are you a Leaf fan that hates Corey Perry?
He does get under my skin. He does get under my skin more and more.
Yeah.
I did listen to his when I think some reporters were asking about the Ryan Getzlaf, and Ryan Getzlaf, he got pretty emotional about that.
Yeah.
I did actually have kind of a soft spot for him then, because it kind of showed that he still does have a heart. But Perry's a competitor and he wants to win, so I understand that. That's just his game. If you understand it, you don't hate him for it.
I think that's the right answer, because I think if he was on the Leafs fourth line and say he replaced Spezza, for instance, I think you'd like him a lot, because he brings something to the table every night, and it's normally positive. Like, he hasn't taken a bad penalty in this series, like Wayne Simmons did, or the stupid hit like Clifford. Like, that fourth line of Tampa has been really good. The big rig just looked like and Pat Maroon looked like a superstar. It looked like Connor McDavid splitting the Leafs D the other night. I mean, it was that line's been really, really consistent for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Belmar's played really good too when he's on the ice, whether it's penalty kill or that goal he scored. I mean, he just right place, right time, and pops it in. So yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that they put Perry on the power play too. I mean, that's just using his skills of being an in front guy and blocking and making screens on the goalie. So they're using all his abilities for sure.
So did the Leafs win tonight?
I'm gonna say yes. I think that they win 4-3.
Tight game.
Yeah, I think it was the last podcast I called the New York Rangers to win, so I hope no one listened to me on that one, because I think they got dusted by the Pens.
Yeah, I on the gambling section. Yes, I had the Rangers winning last night, so that did not go so well.
Where is Igor Shesterkin? Is it Igor, or is it his defenseman?
Yeah, Igor. I think it's a bit of both. I mentioned, I think his positioning's terrible. He's out of his crease all the time. He doesn't look like set in the net. Right. But also the team just looks lackadaisical. They're lazy. And the only line last night that was better than the opposing teams, if you match them up, if you go like first line, second, the best line for the Rangers was the fourth line. And, Reeves and Brzezinski and Rooney were better than Boyle and Teddy Bluger, and I can't even remember who was on the fourth. Like that's the only line that I can say definitively that was better than Pittsburgh's, because they are such a balanced team right now, and they would scare me. If I'm anybody in the East, they would concern me.
Right, because they'll play the winner of Carolina, Boston, Carolina, right? Yeah, so a lot of good. Nice to see that 6 out of the 8 series are all 2-2. They're all competitive, and everybody seems to have a chance. So I love it. Love that Washington's giving Florida for a run for their money too. Yeah,
no, credit to the Caps and their veterans for showing up and playing tough. And for Dallas has been great. And you got the Kings responded. Jonathan Quick, just a clutch performance the other night. And the Bruins played well at home in both their efforts. Before we get to the coach debate, coach talk, I talked about the best goaltending matchup so far in the postseason. I think it's Markstrom-Ottinger for sure, number one. After that, what's the next best matchup when it comes to both goalies playing decent? Because it's really tough to pick one.
Yeah, it would not be the Leafs in Tampa, and it wouldn't be Edmonton and LA either. You got some pretty bad games in there. God, would it be Swayman versus that Czech kid? Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. Because that's not great. That's not great either. I'm just saying, that's been better than maybe the standard. But I do agree. Markstrom and Ottinger is thoroughly impressed. I think anybody who's watched this team, he's been fantastic. I always go on and watch their game recaps. Because he's just so fun to watch. He's made so many big saves. That save on Toffoli last night, you got to feel almost silly that was an option. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you're looking at a future number 1 goaltender for Dallas, which is a positive sign for sure.
Yeah, they got to hope that Sega and Ben could give them anything because they haven't so far. I feel it's a one-line team and a great goalie for Dallas, unfortunately, but you could make the same argument for Calgary. So let's get to this. I texted you yesterday because I thought this was interesting. Because yesterday it caught me by surprise when Barry Trotz was fired by the New York Islanders. I did not see that coming. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But then I thought, okay, well, coaches still remaining in the postseason, who are on the most pressure to win the series, maybe even more now, because Barry Trotz is sitting there potentially taking their job if they lose. So if you have a list, if you have a few guys you want to touch on, who do you think's on the hot seat with coaches still remaining, Nashville included, despite them getting swept last night, that you think are more worried today than they were yesterday?
I have one main one, but we'll get to him I think last because I think you're definitely going to disagree with it.
Okay.
But then I have a few others. Sorry, just scrolling through my thing here. One Bednar. Not Bednar. Sorry, Andrew Burnett from Florida. I know I realize he's only an interim interim head coach, but everyone in their right mind would have said Florida was going to beat Washington in the series. No one gave Washington a chance.
Yep.
If they get rolled by the Caps, I think I don't know if you give him another chance because even though they had a great season, they had probably the best season in franchise history. You're like, okay, well, that's great. But in the offseason, you couldn't get by the weakest Eastern Conference team. Like, that doesn't make much sense to me. And you got Barry Trotz sitting right there like, okay, I could come in and do something with this. Who else do I got here? Hines, obviously. I mean, Hines is only 2 years into his full-time head coach job there. Do you really think he leaves, or do you think he's going to get more leeway for being so new?
I kind of think like Nashville, they're a weird team because you got Saros, who's in the peak of his career, just got nominated for the Vezina today. Mm-hmm. But you got Forsberg's a UFA. Johansson's got 1 year left. Duchesne had a career year. You still have Yossi, but this team is not going to be a contending team. But Hines got this team to the playoffs. I'm not sure if they had those expectations at the beginning of the year. So, and they didn't have, I think he'll be back next year, but Trotz coached in Nashville for a long time. David Poyle's still there. You never know. Never know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what happened with Hines, right? Like he was in New Jersey and he left New Jersey for Nashville. So
yeah,
it's like, you're allowed to upgrade.
Absolutely.
The Vegas Golden Knights did it with Gallant and DeBoer. So you're not. It's not restricted. Other than that, I would have said Bednar. If Bednar would have lost, if Bednar doesn't make it to the conference final, he's been there for a long time and he's got a long leeway. I think you might want to look at different options just because, you've had this nucleus of a team and you're not able to get it done. Someone's got to take that blame, and I think it's going to be him.
Yeah, I don't disagree. If he doesn't at least get to a conference final, that is going to be trouble because that could be a wholesale fire because Sakic's been there a long time too. And yes, he's built a great team, but he's fired a coach before. And, obviously the Patrick Waugh debacle, that was, he kind of quit. But yeah, if they can't get to a conference final with last year's team and this year, there's something, the smell test it stinks. I think Bednar could take the hit for that. Maybe even Sakic goes because I think they expect the cup this year. I think it's Stanley Cup or bust in Colorado this year, quite frankly.
Absolutely. And my main man, the guy I have on the chopping block, if he doesn't, he's the highest percentage for me, is one Bruce Cassidy.
He's on my list.
If Bruce can't, he's had this great team. He's been there for a hot minute. 2017, he got hired. Mm-hmm. If he can't get past Carolina, which Carolina doesn't have a goaltender right now, besides this Czech Republic kid who I don't know of and haven't heard of ever. If they can't get past him, then I think Boston has to think, okay, we have to try something else because we love Cassidy. He's got one of the best percentages in winning out of all head coaches in the league. But we need to do something different in order to change this up.
No, I don't disagree with you. When I was driving with Dad to Boston the other day, we were kind of talking about the Bruins. And obviously, it was more bleak then because they were down 2-0, and the first two games were just blowouts. It looked like Carolina was just going to roll. And I said I wouldn't be shocked if Cassidy's fired. I think he's a really good coach. I think he'd be hired in a second if he got fired, but rehired by somebody else. But I think Boston, Sweeney and him always don't seem like they're on the same page. There always seems to be some friction there, and eventually you run your course. And I'm with you. I think Cassidy could be, but I also had Jay Woodcroft at Edmonton because he's an interim guy, and yes, he had great success. But it's kind of almost who you lose to, because if Edmonton loses to LA, that is a tough look. Because LA is not a great team. They're just happy to be here. Jonathan Quick, 36, old man, should even be starting. No Doughty on the back end. Dustin Brown, retirement tour. Defense core that's all 23 and under, basically. And if you lose to that team with McDavid and Draisaitl after the debacle last year, I don't know if you bring back an interim coach when you could get, like you said, maybe Cassidy's available, maybe Trotz, and you could finally get some structure at Edmonton. Because I think Brunette and Woodcroft would be the most worried, because I think Trotz would bring structure and a system to two teams in Florida and Edmonton that really don't have it. Because Florida's as much as I love the way Florida plays offensively, their defensive play is extremely erratic.
Yeah, that could be exactly what that team needs to take that to another level. Like, it's just a solid, guys who just play defense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Forget about the points. I had down Woodcroft he's my biggest surprise of the year. I was going to ask you who you thought yours was for head coaches, but the way looking at this team and God forbid Ken Holland and I didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay, it's just that it's a firing, and they're not going to do anything. They're not going to turn it around. And they had a really good second half of the year, and I think he had a large part to do with that. So that's why he's my biggest surprise. But who would your biggest surprise be for all of the coaches this year?
Yeah, it'd be hard for not to be Woodcroft, because like you, I thought they were dead to rights. I would say Bruce Boudreau. He didn't get to the playoffs, but if he had more of a runway, I think they would have. And he'd be right there. Woodcroft, Brucey Boudreau. Doesn't surprise me. Daryl Sutter had a great impact. That's just Daryl Sutter. Maybe Keefe in Toronto, because Toronto I thought they'd have a good season, but they had their best season ever statistically. So I think Keefe deserves a ton of credit for that, for what he did. And kind of turning that ship around. And
absolutely.
But yeah, there's a lot of good, but again, it's such a perilous sport, because if you lose, you could have a great regular season, but like Jokic, like we talked about, you might win the regular season MVP, but if you're not doing anything in the playoffs, nobody cares if people are upset you won an award to begin with.
Yeah, it's an empty promise. It almost feels like
the
best player in the league. Well, why couldn't you be the best player in the second season? I get a couple stats I want to read off first. Do you know who the longest tenured head coach is?
Let me think about this. Good question. You go through it. No, Lavi is not there long enough. Bonus was assistant, got promoted because of the drinking problem. I think it's Cassidy or Bednar. I'm gonna say Jared Bednar.
Good guess. I think Bednar is the third. John Cooper came in.
I forgot about Coop. Yeah, he's been there a decade.
Yeah, basically. Do you know who the second would be? Take your time. Eastern Conference. I'll give you. I'll throw that bonus.
Mike Sullivan.
Yeah, Mikey Sullivan went in 2015. This is my last stat. 26 out of the 32 teams have head coaches from 2019 until now. So 26 out of 32 teams have a head coach from 2018 and backwards Meaning, like, there's that much turnover in the league where guys are just in and out. And that, I mean, you have Seattle and Vegas, but like obviously those kind of are out the window. But still, like 26 teams, just throw like a new head coach this year. Okay, we're gonna get a new one. All right, dice this guy. Is Alain Vigneault done after his stint in Philadelphia?
Oh, that's an interesting one. There's a lot of veterans that, is Vigneault done? Is Torts done? Is your boy Babs done?
Right.
And that'd be a good FanDuel if they had that prop. Do any of these veterans get another job, a head coaching job? I don't know if Vigneault will get another job because he had such a good start but they'd love to recycle coaches, so we might. But he had such a good run in Vancouver and New York. He got to a cup final, but it was pretty ugly in Pittsburgh, in Philly. Like, he didn't have much success there. I'm going to say no, he doesn't get – maybe he has to take I would say Claude Julien would get a head coaching job again over Alain Vigneault.
Okay. Jules. Yeah, I haven't heard that name in a little while. I guess when no, he was fired from Montreal, so they wouldn't want him back. Yeah. No.
Well, they still might. They brought Michel Therrien back.
Yeah.
If you speak French, they'll hire you.
Yeah. Love to see Marty go back there, though. That's exciting for them. I'm sure you and Cole talked about that.
Yeah, I love to see people that are not qualified get the position. I love that in life. But
we should start coaching Bantam. We might be there any second.
Yeah, I think we should. We should take more French classes. We get the job. Montreal a couple of years.
Who do you think Stevie Y is going to hire? There's no one there right now.
Yeah.
Does he go back to Babs? That seems to be some people. I see it on Twitter all the time. They're like, "Hey, like, bring him back, second run."
Yeah, I would not do that. They're not going to be a good team again.
No, definitely not.
I think a smart hire, honestly, and this is a guy that is a recycle guy, but Torts would give that team some structure. He was in a Columbus team that was no good. He got that team to a playoff. He won a coach of the year there. I think he should get another look because it's not like he didn't have any success in Columbus. Right. And I think Vigneault, Babs, these other veterans that they had tough exits where I don't think Torts did. I think he did a good job his last time he had a job.
No, this might take some time for it to heal. Does Joel Quenneville get a job back?
What if they lose in the first round and they rehire Quenneville in Florida?
That'd be something. That'd be mischievous. I'm going to use that word, but I would love it because he didn't do anything in Florida. With Florida, he never wronged anybody, so it's not stains there.
I think a team would. I think he'll want to coach again because you don't want to go out that way. And was he complicit in Chicago? Absolutely. But at the same time, teams don't care. They'll they'll put out a statement, and you'll forget about it by the time the new season comes around. So I'd say of the veterans we've talked about, I think Torts and Quenneville have the best shots at getting jobs again. Over Babs, I think Quenneville's got a better shot than Babs at getting another head coaching job.
Yeah, I think when I saw Bruce get picked up, I was like, okay, anybody has a legit chance here at becoming a head coach because I didn't think he'd be back in the league. But
I could see Stevie Y making like a hire that nobody sees coming in Detroit because I could see him hiring an AHL coach because it's a team that's not good. Dallas Eakin's kind of an outside the box hire when Edmonton had him originally. And now I think he's had a decent run in Anaheim. He's developed pieces there. Yes, the team isn't very good, but I listened to him interviewed. He's a good speaker. I think he's a good coach. Maybe I outside the box name, Chris Knobloch is the head coach of the Hartford Wolfpack. He won an OHL title. He's had good success in the American League, good success in the O. I think he'll be a head coach eventually. He's a guy I could see getting a potential job.
Relates to those young guys too, right? He coaches young guys all the time, and Detroit's got more young guys coming. It's not like what you see is what you get. They've got a pretty deep prospect pool, and
Right.
I think other guys will be there shortly. No, that was all I had on head coaches, but that was fun. There's going to be more firings and there's going to be more hirings, which is great. I think guys, especially older guys, might take assistant jobs, might take a hit to the pride. Like, I would not be surprised if someone took AB on an assistant job.
Right.
And said, we know you're still a good coach, but we can't let you lead. But we know that you'll be able to help a team out in some way.
Right. And say Vigneault took an assistant job. I could say this. Dallas. Like, I don't think they'll fire Bonus. Maybe he'll retire, though. I could see him. He's an old coach. I think he's close to 70 years old.
Yeah.
He's been in the league 4 decades. Maybe he'll leave and they bring in a veteran, or the veteran says, which team is most likely to struggle to start the season? And you don't root for failure, but you kind of do. And you just get the job by osmosis because you're the assistant coach. I mean, that does happen. Mike Sullivan is a head coach because of the failure of Dan Bylsma, and now he's one of the best coaches in the world. Exactly. It's the right. Let's do this quick. If Keith loses in the first round, is he fired?
Oh, I struggle with this, especially when you texted me this yesterday. I think as long as Dubas is there, he's not going to swallow. I think he'll be fine. But if Dubas goes, I think he's not far behind him.
They go together, I think.
Kind of, yeah, because that seems to be the way with them.
Woodcroft. If Edmonton loses in the first round,
I think Jay's gone. Yeah.
Okay. Rick Bowness, first round.
I think Rick Bowness might retire, honestly, because he's just at that age where he's done it all. He doesn't need to come back.
Cassidy,
I think, is out the door if he goes in the first round. Yeah.
Peter Laviolette.
No, I think Peter needs more time. He usually takes 4 or 5 years to get a team turned around.
Rod Brendamore.
Never. No, never. They're keeping that guy there. And you know what? If Carolina had a goaltender, this would be a much different series, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like if it's Freddie the Betty, in the back of the net, and not. I don't even know his name. Like, I can't.
Potchkov.
What's it?
Yeah, it's like Potchkov or something.
If Potchkov or something is there, yeah. But no, Brandon Moore is safe, in my opinion.
Yeah. Hines, we talked about. John Cooper's not. If John Cooper gets fired, I mean, Jesus.
The world will.
No, that's the coach. I'm gonna do the betting segment here, but before I want to get your advice. Before we go here today, because we'll do this together maybe, and then we'll sign off.
Okay, sure.
I'm looking at some popular same game parlay bets here. Here's one that is kind of popular right now on FanDuel Sportsbook. Joel Embiid to score 25 points.
I like
that tonight.
I like that. Oh yeah.
Jimmy Butler to score 30.
No.
Okay.
No,
Embiid to record 10+ boards.
Yes.
Maxey 2+ made threes.
Yes. Danny
Green 2+ made threes.
He had a good. Was it game 3 or game 4?
He's had a pretty good series.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I'm gonna say yes. I'll throw that out there, but I don't know. Take that one.
So no Jimmy Butler. Other than that.
No, yeah, I don't know. I never Jimmy over 30 just doesn't gel with me. But
yeah, he had 40 the other night. I don't think he'll get 30. But if you take away the Jimmy Butler, that's $10 wager. You get $100.
That's pretty good. Because you're relying on Philly having a great game, but I mean they played.
But they could lose and they could still do that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Maybe Harden has a bad game or something.
Let's look at this. Leafs -1.5 tonight. Over under 6.5 goals.
I'm gonna say over because most of the games have been over.
Yeah.
Besides the shutout.
Here's another parlay. Dallas Phoenix. Max Kleba to score 10+ points.
Oh, jeez. I want to say yes because of the way he's been playing this series. So, you know what? Yeah, let's do it.
Finney Smith to score 15+ points.
Came off a good game. I'm gonna say no. I don't think he has 2 good games back to back. Not in Phoenix. I think Phoenix puts the clamps on.
Jay Crowder to score 15+ points.
No. I don't like that.
And Ayton to score 15+ points.
Yes, I think Ayton bounces back. So
yeah, there's too many players there that you need to play well from both teams that I don't trust that.
What's that payout like?
That's $300. $300, $10 wager.
Oof. Almost worth putting on.
I like that first parlay. I think that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Do you like the Canes to win tonight? Or do you like the Bruins?
I think Boston's. Who's in that, Ranta or the Pochkov?
Ranta. He played on Sunday too, though. So
yeah, I'll take that with a grain of salt. No, I think Boston wins tonight. I think.
So you got Boston. They're at +1.5. So you're getting plus money if you take the Bruins tonight on the road.
I love it because I think Boston's found it. You know what I mean? Like before, they looked lost those first 2 games, and I think. Power play's working, and their top lines are just moving now, which is
right.
Needed.
You got the Leafs at -1.5. I know you got the Leafs winning tonight, so you got the Leafs. Who do you think's the favorite in Minnesota or St. Louis tonight?
I'm gonna say Minnesota's the favorite.
Yeah, they're -1.5. Okay. I like St. Louis plus money.
You do? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. I'm taking that. I'm going to the store right after this. So. FanDuel, I don't know if you must have MacGyvered yours so that you could use yours in New Brunswick because it's not working.
I might have lied about
your address
residence. Okay. Yeah.
I feel like you're not the only one.
Yeah, I might have lied about my residence, but we won't get too more into that. But yeah, I like that parlay. I like if you look at the games tonight, Bruins +1.5, you're getting plus money. If you take you can take a favorite. If you like the Leafs, you can take the Leafs -1.5. And I like the Blues tonight on the road +1.5. So that's probably what we're gonna go with. I'll probably also post the parlay, which I think is an interesting one with the Philadelphia 76ers. But no, Shay, always fun. Appreciate you coming on today. Good luck to your Leafs tonight. I'm sure we'll be texting throughout the week, but we'll talk to you next week.
Yes, appreciate that, buddy. Thanks for having me on, and I'll be home this weekend, so I'm sure we'll catch up then.
Yes, we'll chat then.
All right, thanks, buddy.
See you, buddy. That's Shamus Film, everybody. Always great to talk to Shay every Tuesday here on the show. And just to reiterate that, the bets tonight, I like a parlay, which are always fun. So you got Joel Embiid to score 25+ points. You got Jimmy Butler. So you got Joel Embiid to score 25+ points. You got Joel Embiid to get 10+ rebounds. Tyrese Maxey, 2+ made threes, and Danny Green, 2+ made threes. $10 bet, you win $100. Philadelphia 76ers. Might not win the game tonight, but they can win you some money. Other than that, if you're looking just for betting on games, not betting on players, I like the Leafs tonight, -1.5. We're gonna go with Shamus's thought. Bruins +1.5. They're getting plus money on the road. And I'm going with my St. Louis Blues. I got them going to the Stanley Cup final. I'm taking them tonight +1.5, getting plus money 2 games in the NHL. I'm taking the money. So, everybody, thanks for tuning in today. Great show. Fun talking with Shay and all of that. We'll see you tomorrow. This has been To The Point.